Good afternoon, senators and representatives, and thank you for joining us for this lunch. We truly appreciate all your support for the visitor economy. My name is Natalie Randall, and as of the start of this legislative session, I'm the new executive director for the Utah Tourism Industry Association, or UTIA. UTIA functions as the umbrella organization for both public and private sector as we advocate for and educate on the visitor economy in the state of Utah. Prior to my role with UTIA, I served as the Economic Development and Visitor Services Director for San Juan County. During my tenure with San Juan, we worked on long-term strategy to balance both a growing visitor economy, outdoor recreation, and economic diversification. We partnered with broader economic development to achieve an overall goal of an enduring visitor economy. I'm beyond excited to be able to continue this work at a statewide level with UTIA. UTIA's membership base includes both public and private sector, which is critical for us to move the needle to a more sophisticated model for growing the visitor economy. Our membership base includes hoteliers, restaurateurs, retail spaces, county destination marketing and management offices, chambers of commerce, government agencies, and so many more. I hope as UTIA we can be a great example of this public-private partnership, particularly with our strong partnership that exists with the Utah Office of Tourism and the Governor's Office of Economic Development. With that, I would like to introduce Vicki Varela, the Managing Director for the Utah Office of Tourism, as she will be our keynote during this lunch overviewing the state of Utah's tourism economy.
Thanks, Vicki. And I'm not going to take too long, but GOED's a great organization, and it's particularly for the tourism piece. Vicki runs a very tight ship and does a great job with promoting the tourism industry in the state of Utah. And frankly, we're all blessed to have Vicki Varela. But specifically, talking about tourism in particular, we've gone through this pandemic, right? And as of December, some good things. Utah economy actually expanded in December, not a lot, 0.6%, but compared to nationwide contraction of 6%, so 0.6 expansion versus 6% contraction. It's still a lot better. Utah is doing better as far as recovery because it's the most diverse economy in the country. That said, the recovery has not been equally felt by all industries, and particularly the tourism industry has been hard hit. And even if you look at counties that are heavily dependent upon tourism, they are much more impacted and have felt much more the impacts of the pandemic than non-tourism oriented counties. And we think it's going to be a long, slow recovery for this industry. We think it may be as long as 2025 until we're back where we were in early 2020. It's a $10.1 billion a year in visitor spending. I know a lot of people went outside during the pandemic and went to our state parks and went to our national parks, but they didn't, but it wasn't the same tourist, if that makes sense. It wasn't the same person coming that spends money in that local economy, stays in a hotel. There's a lot more camping, and it was a different type of participation in that economy. And we believe, and you've heard about this Red Emerald strategic plan, focusing on a more sustainable look at how to get people to participate in our tourism economy. And Vicki's leading that up, and it's quite exciting if you're not familiar with it. It's a neat plan, and I think it's going to be key, the execution of that plan to get us back in a recovery perspective. And then frankly, the other big thing that's going to help a lot, and I'm glad we have some senators and representatives on this call, legislative support, investments in Utah is going to be critical to help us navigate out of this COVID environment. There's some big money requests. Senator Buxton, you were talking about some big requests you were making. There's a lot of big requests out there. One of which Senator Sandal's involved with. It's a Rural Utah Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund. There's $100 million from the governor's budget going into state parks and outdoor recreation in general. Investments like these that do impact our tourism economy, I think are a big deal. and it's money well spent that we'll get a nice return on for decades to come. And it just helps build out even better this image that Utah is the place to come to recreate from, and for business from a tourism perspective. Utah has led the region and the nation in tourism recovery. We're still a long way off, and we think it's a long tail before we get back to where we were, but we are leading, and it's thanks to the work of this association, thanks to the work of the legislature in supporting this industry and investing in the state of Utah. As far as what we need to do, there's a lot of work to make sure that we're marketing strategically. This gets back to the Red Emerald strategic vision. Managing and mitigating tourism impacts. This also is related to Red Emerald. And then also part of that mitigation is an investment in our tourism assets. And then a big part of that is, with that investment, is developing new recreational assets, new places for people to go. If you look at the trails, I saw a map recently that had all the trails in the state on it. And the vast majority of the state is still reasonably inaccessible from a trail and access perspective. And there's still a lot that could be built out to create more destinations. And just want to thank everyone on this group. GOED is, and the governor is definitely supportive of everything this group does, particularly Vicki's office. And appreciate all the support we've got from the legislature, and hope we can continue to receive support to this very important industry in our economy. And thank you very much for all your support.
Thank you very much, Dan. The gist of it is that he just said much more concisely some of the things that I want to highlight for you. And given the fact that we have a small group, I really want to make this interactive. Given the fact that we're on Zoom, I may not be able to see if you raise your hand or put something in chat. So I'll ask Natalie and Des to call my attention to that. And let's feel free to make this conversational, because we just want to give you a snapshot of where things are. We thought it might be interesting to try to turn 2020 into a math problem. And here's the math problem. If you're going down a river at 2 miles per hour and your raft loses a wheel, how much pancake mix would you need to reshingle your roof? I know that's how crazy it's been for you. That's how crazy it's been for us. The terms just kept changing all along the way. And we just tried to keep up with the evolving story problem. Having said that, we're actually very proud, as Dan referenced, that we are on a path to recovery. As he said, it's going to take us several years, but we feel like the right ingredients are in place. And so the tone of what I have to say today, it's lots of glass half empty, lots of glass half full. Glass half empty just because it's such a difficult time, but glass half full because you've been willing to invest in our industry, and because we feel like we've got the right strategy that is going to keep us in a position of strength. It was just exactly a year ago that we were celebrating $10.1 billion, with that generating $1.3 billion of tax revenues, and then it all went south. I think this demonstrates very effectively what we all know and what Dan referenced. We're the most devastated industry. People just aren't going places. And so you've got construction that's thriving, other areas that aren't suffering as much, but we just stand out in this devastated industry. Now the glass, more of the glass half empty, just snapshot information, statewide hotel occupancy down 27%, jobs down 14%. It's really interesting to compare the statewide transient room tax collections, which are down 22%, with Salt Lake County, the most devastated area, down 48%. And, this is obvious that it's a meeting and convention center, and people just aren't gathering for large meetings. The additional pain of that is that Salt Lake County is such a huge contributor to our overall state transient room tax and tourism economy in a good year. And so here we are, all of these things in play, but still Utah is a national leader in recovery. I just want to review the ingredients that are putting us there. Thank you again to the legislature for being willing to invest $12 million with the Utah Office of Tourism so that we could do marketing and mitigation. I think we've spent it responsibly. I'll show you an ad that gives you a sense of the storytelling that we're doing. And then we were very grateful that partway through that process, given all the issues in Salt Lake County and the 7 other convention districts, Ogden was deeply impacted. We were able to generate an incentive last fall called Meet in Utah that incents people to attend smaller meetings in these convention districts and their surrounding hotels. Shop in Utah grants. We've got Corianne Edwards on the call. Your willingness to invest in these grants and then Corianne's brilliant execution of it got money out to so many small Utah businesses that literally would not have survived if not for these grants. It got consumer spending. It was a really amazing program, and we thank you. No matter how you measure, our industry received the bulk of those grants, notwithstanding that we wish Red Hanger dry cleaners had gotten just a little bit more. Here is one of the ads that you may or may not have seen. We think it gets in the right zone to inspire people to visit Utah, to get out and enjoy our great destinations when they feel COVID safe to do so.
A little rain over time, freezing and thawing. That's all it took to create the thousands of arches in Utah. So if you feel insignificant, simply staying at home, don't. You're doing your part. You're making a difference, just like a little bit of rain. By being careful, you protect those around you. It's a small thing, but it's mighty.
And we can share many more ads with you, but I do want to be respectful of all the things you have going and go through this fairly quickly. You can see that it's translated into really meaningful success. We dominated the Western hotel stays. You know, if somebody does a search, it turns into a booking. And you can see that Utah led the Western states until just recently. We don't have permission to share what these other states are through our agreement with Expedia, but you can just see that only one other state has gotten a little bit ahead of us recently. And the 2 hints are Western state and lots of snow. You know, our slow start to the snow season set us back just a little bit, but for the most part, we've really been able to dominate Western stays.
Vicki, Senator Davis has his hand up.
Senator Davis.
Thank you, Ms. Varela. Great to see you again.
Great to see you.
I'm wondering on our convention and tourism stuff, do we have any pending conventions that are planning on coming here as soon as things open up?
Yeah.
What is the projection? I mean, not the projection, but maybe some hardcore numbers that we have of how quick we can get out of this COVID downturn and really move forward with our convention and tourism?
That is a great question. And I think we've got Caitlin Eskelson on the call. I would turn to Caitlin to give you a quick update.
Hi, Senator. I am with Visit Salt Lake. And to answer your question, astonishingly enough, our sales team ended with their 3rd highest booking year ever in 2020. But what that means is typically the business that we operate on, you know, are at least a couple, if not more years out. So we have a tremendous amount of business on the books. as soon as the time is ready, really through 2030. So that's the long-term projection. The short-term answer to your question is yes, we actually just last week finalized a 12,000 attendee group that's coming at the end of August. Fingers crossed, that relocated from Los Angeles because their convention center is closed through the end of the year. They've just made that decision. So we have a tremendous amount of business that is lined up, and I'm happy to share with you all the booking figures and our full convention calendar. But right now it's just touch and go, because a lot of them want to know, okay, when is the time right? When will you know for certain any contracts or pieces of business that are going under contract? They have a COVID clause tagged to them, basically saying that, we can pull out if we have to. There's also a little bit of a hindrance given that the vaccinations are now at the Salt Palace. And so obviously that's taking up a significant amount of space. Our hope is that, there may come a time where that can maybe decrease in size and move off premise, outside of the Salt Palace Convention Center. But again, I can send you specific stats, but our second half of 2021 could be very record breaking.
It's a matter of getting through this, shots in arms, and all of us feeling safe.
Yeah. I mean, to give you an idea, in a normal year, what we book through our efforts, because the majority of what we do at Visit Salt Lake is sales oriented, our team accounts for about 800,000 room nights every year that's pushed into those downtown hotels.
Yeah, and I guess my feeling is we need to keep the level of funding that we've got right now so that we're ready. The day that it begins to open up, we don't have to catch up or do anything else. So we need to continue to invest. Thank you.
And just to add on to that, I mean, as Vicki mentioned, we had the Meet in Utah grant that was dispersed amongst 6 convention districts statewide, but Visit Salt Lake got quite a lot of those funds. We were able to actually turn that money and book short-term pieces of business that were really small, and about 30,000 room nights that's actually actualizing now through 2021. But what that's done is it's allowed the downtown hotels to have something, because they're not getting any benefit from the Salt Palace right now. And that's really what keeps them afloat. So we really shifted our model to go from 20 to 30 person groups, where normally we wouldn't target anything less than a couple thousand. So we've tried to pivot in that regard. But that Meet in Utah grant money, it did so much for us. And I know it did a lot for other areas, because nationwide, most DMOs, which is what we are, a sales and marketing organization, they were all but going out of business. And we were coming into the market with these incentives to get people to come here. And what we know is that every person that comes spends about $970 while they're here. So to us, it's worth it, but it's keeping those downtown hotels afloat.
Let's hope we can get things back and uprighted by the time we get that convention hotel built and open, so we don't have to, so that all of the hotels in downtown Salt Lake City can be successful. Thank you.
And we've already booked 25 conventions at that hotel, and it's not even open yet. So that's great news.
Senator Davis, let me just add really briefly, Des Barker here. So what happened in COVID is all those downtown hotels laid off a lot of their staff, and particularly they laid off their sales and marketing staff. So they don't have people out going, the ability to go out and recruit business, because they're in survival mode. So they have completely turned to Visit Salt Lake to be the sales force going out and finding this business for them. So that's a little different than some other county tourism offices, that they're actually in the sales business to help those hotels actually close direct bookings.
So yes, Meet in Utah was so important, and we appreciated the flexibility to be able to fund that when the time was needed. And I think what Caitlin didn't say, but was in the her underlying message is, if for some reason the legislature decided to do more there, I'm sure she would make really good use of it, along with the other convention districts around the state.
I think our advertising, state advertising budget needs to remain the same, so we keep Utah on the world's mind as we as the world starts to open up. We need to keep that advertising budget in place and promoting the state.
I really appreciate you saying that, because that's exactly where we are. And I'll show you a couple of examples of ways that we've been able to keep Utah top of mind for when people are ready to travel, especially internationally. So I think this chart is really useful in showing how your expenditures and our strategy have positioned us among the national leaders. When you contrast, Utah is at a 33% decline in traveler spending, but the United States has had a 48% decline. And even our surrounding Western states have had a dramatically bigger decline than we have. So even with their outdoor recreation offerings, they haven't been able to tell their story. We think our outdoor recreation offerings are the best. Mother Nature played favorites, but this is really glass half full stuff. We have worked really hard. I was raised in the school of public policy and business leadership that you never let a crisis go to waste. And so we have worked really hard to pivot through COVID. And I just want to highlight several things for you. All of them anchored, of course, in our Red Emerald strategy, which is our powerful branding, quality visitation, distributed visitation, and working closely with communities to make sure that the tourism economy for their region is what they want. I'm proud to tell you that for the first time ever, we've been able to secure significant federal funding. We just got $1 million grant from the Economic Development Administration. This is the biggest infusion of funds to tourism outside of the Tourism Marketing Performance Fund that has ever happened. And that money will be used to encourage responsible visitation. We know that some visitors were not as respectful of our communities and our outdoor recreation as they should have been through COVID. And so we are really digging in to help our visitors arrive well prepared, to be safe, not to rely on emergency medical services, to be respectful of the land. And we're also using some of this money to help on recovery planning and training. Again, this forever mighty mindset of visitor engagement about responsible visitation. I would love for you to go to our website, visitutah.com. We have a really robust customer engagement at the height of the March through July COVID lockdown. We were getting 120 intercom conversations an hour from people who were trying to figure out safe places to travel around the state. And that kept our hoteliers whole. We also had great leadership, vibrant, under Breck Dogstetter, Cliff Rose Lodge in Springdale organized a wonderful Forever Mighty outreach so that more than 1,000 hotels in Southern Utah are getting messages in their hotel rooms about responsible visitation. A huge shout out to our state parks. They had a 33% increase in visitation this year. I think we all know that in other states they would be national parks. This was paired with a 27% decrease in national park visitation. Now, this trend has been going on for several years. This was the most extreme change in patterns, and it's partly because the national parks were closed during part of the pandemic. But Jeff Rasmussen and State Parks, it's just amazing the things that we're doing. We're so enthusiastic about the potential investment of tens of millions of dollars in their outdoor recreation infrastructure. Also in the state parks category, we worked really hard this year and Jeff Rasmussen and his team were amazing to get 4 new certifications of dark skies in state parks. This makes us the global leader. We have a total of 21 dark sky destinations. I know Steve Handy is advancing a bill to have a dark sky license plate, which I think is a fantastic idea. I believe that we're going to be as famous for our greatest snow on earth, our Mighty Five. We're going to have global leadership in dark skies as well. It's super exciting. And of course it distributes visitation and so forth. To your point about inspiring future travel, we've got 1,000 tour operators that have participated in a virtual walk across Utah, where they can see destinations by doing a walk in their neighborhood, but having it carry them across the state of Utah. This is in preparation for getting our international high spend visitors back. Shout out to Zion Ponderosa Ranch. They did a case study that showed that, to their surprise, their profitability actually has gone up by deploying the Red Emerald strategy of longer stays and getting people out with guides and outfitters. They have lower costs in their hotel, and then they get people to stay longer, distribute their visitation and so forth. We'll have more of these Red Emerald business case studies that help all of us see the ways that we can attract quality visitors, not just volume of visitation. And of course, a huge emphasis on going with a guide to help these local businesses and to ensure that people travel safely. So you see the formula that we are focused on. Thank you so much for your participation in it. A handful of next steps. We're working really closely. We're excited about this new Economic Commission that will enable us to work in close partnership with other agencies and with the Association of Counties, so that we show strong leadership to mitigate and manage destinations according to the needs of the local community. This is a huge part of our focus right now, is getting that right. Our state and local marketing partnership is super important. We need those destination marketing organizations all over the state to protect the marketing dollars that they get through the transient room, their share of the transient room tax, so that together we can tell a broad story from the state office and then a very specific call to action from the regions around the state. We're excited about work that we're doing with Corianne Edwards with workforce services, and about a bill that's in the works for employment training. We think this will be huge. We are not getting the international J1 visa employees that we have gotten historically. And we're also worried about losing a lot of people given the long-term devastation of our industry. So we want to make sure we have employees in the pipeline. And finally, business grants. I know some business grants are in the works. So just on a personal note, we all were challenged to learn new things through COVID. You may not have seen this coming, but I've always wanted to learn to weld. I took a welding class. This is one of my classmates. It was actually loads of fun. I did a bunch of different projects, and it got some of my COVID stress out and so forth. But I wanted to do something that reflected my passion for this industry, for the state, something that would make a statement. So.
Did you make copies?
What's that?
That was the question.
So I'm just going to take a little credit for the monolith here. That was such a fun distraction for all of us. And I kind of wish I'd done it, but y'all know I didn't. What a year. What a crazy math time. I do want to show you one other creative interaction with the monolith. That's our own Natalie Randall. I told you she was an adventurer. She somehow found the time to get out there, and I don't know how she got to the top of it, but in the short time it was there she was. So I know your time is really tight. We'd love to answer any other additional questions or clarify anything. You got a whole team of us tourism folks from around the state. So
what should we be looking for? What do you got coming?
I think in terms of legislation,
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that's most important to us is in the budget as it currently stands, the protecting the tourism marketing performance fund. It's at $22.8 million. That's a slight cut, as everyone experienced, from last year's budget, and that will enable us to continue to do strong marketing. I would defer to UTIA on other things you'd like to headline.
Senator Buxton, we've been working closely with Representative Albrecht on a transient room tax bill. We've come to a neutral position on his bill, but there are other factors that are coming into play. So as that comes over to the Senate, we'll want to make sure that's in a place that we're comfortable with, and trying to strike the balance between what Vicki's been talking about is visitor management, destination development, positive experiences, and mitigation, but also having enough promotion both at the state level and at the local level to be able to rebound with this visitor economy and all of the tax dollars and jobs that are generated from it.
Stay close. I make assignments.
Well, I believe, thank you very much. That Representative Lowry Snow has a transient bill file request. I'm not sure that the bill is going to move. If it does, it would be specific to Washington County, and I'm working with him that if he chooses to move forward with that I think we're in a place that we can get to with him to make some accommodations in this direction. I believe Senator Kennedy has a tourism amendments bill file. I've not been able to talk directly with him, but I think it has more to do with a Utah County specific use of transient room tax. And we're trying to, I've been talking with Nate Seacrest that represents the Utah County Commission and trying to better understand what the issues are there, and if a change to transient room tax is necessary this year to address those issues, particularly in pandemic when hotels have been so dramatically hit in much of the state, that we have a very robust plan coming out of COVID, but let's not also create some angst and for hoteliers and tourism related folks in the hardest hit areas, particularly in the urban settings in the state.
And if I could just jump in as well, we talked a little bit about Meet in Utah, and I know that everyone's vying for dollars, but I will say that for us, if we could have additional Meet in Utah dollars of any sort, we were able to do really good work with that. Just from Visit Salt Lake, we booked about 30,000 room nights that are directly going into convention hotels now through the end of 2021. And those hotels are still at, a 20 to 30% occupancy and have been for almost a year now. And we've already seen the Red Lion, go out of business. It's a 400 plus room hotel. And so I just can't say enough how much we appreciate Meet in Utah. But if there is anything else that we can do to really support Visit Salt Lake's efforts and the other efforts to push business into these hotels that are suffering without conferences and conventions, that would be very, very appreciated.
Vicki, I have a question. It's Rep Handy. Can I say something?
Yes,
I love
yes.
that you've ended your slide presentation here with a dark sky. You and I have talked about this. You know that I've had a bill working with the dark sky community to promote and to produce a standard, a fourth standard license plate with the slogan, Darkest Skies in America. Utah has 21 designated certified dark sky places. So if your Mighty 5 campaign wears out, you might move to the Mighty 21. But anyway, the fiscal note was just too much, and we're going to come back with a specialty plate, try to raise the money to get to a standard plate in a few years. But my question is, someone from your team, anyone, how big a deal is this astrotourism, and how big of a deal is the fact that Utah has these more designated places, these dark sky places, than anywhere in the world?
It's a super duper mighty big deal. I would compare it to the greatest snow on earth, the Mighty 5. We're developing such a reputation. There was an article that I'd be happy to share after this call in Travel and Leisure magazine, 6-page spread that just was so effusive in its praise of Utah as a dark sky destination. Very big deal. Idea is terrific because a dark sky aficionados are super engaged. They'll get the license plate, they'll travel to obscure places to have that night sky experience. So it's really the type of segmenting of our visitors that we're trying to accomplish, to attract those people who are willing to go have unusual adventures that differentiate Utah from other places.
Chris, did you have a comment as well on that?
My name is Chris Eggleton, and I have a small boutique hospitality hotel management business in Summit County. And one of the things that we appreciate the legislator continuing to track is the treatment of state income tax on PPP and grant money. I know that there was a little bit of a disconnect between how the federal income tax is treating and the state tax, but I'd just like to point that out as another really critical piece to really small businesses. It's been super helpful to get all of the grant funds that we have, and we can't thank everyone enough, but income tax treatment is also fairly important. So thank you.
We appreciate everyone that joined this call with us today. If you have any questions or if you have any other concerns from us as an industry, please feel free to reach out. We will be following up with an email that has this Zoom call recorded for your future reference as well. And we'll hopefully talk to you all soon. Thank you.
Where would